Hey, welcome back to the Victors Podcast. I'm Jeremy Brown. So, there's two things that can happen during and after this Indiana game. Number one, Don Brown sticks to script, and Joe Milton shows no development, losing in an almost blowout fashion. If this happens, then there's no hope for Harbaugh or Don. And then there's number two. Don Brown shows he can adapt to his underwhelming corner unit, putting them in a position to have help in deep field coverage, and then Joe shows tremendous growth from MSU to this upcoming Indiana game. In this scenario, Michigan wins and grows as a team, at least giving Harbaugh a chance at redemption one last time if he can win out. So, right now, this game is the biggest of Harbaugh's career because he has everything to lose and the chance to keep his job. So, let's get into the game. So, on offense, to start out, we need to have better play calling by Josh Gaddis. Throughout the game, we were complacent and we had absolutely terrible clock managing plays on our last drive. And it just showed us that Josh Gaddis really needs to get into his groove, man. Like, we keep saying this is the second year now. He just has to get into his groove, and he has to find out what players can do the best at where. So, the offensive line has major problems. Chuck Filiaga is most likely going to be taken out for Zach Zinter, and Jalen Mayfield got injured last week. But his x-rays did show that he didn't have any breaks, which still leaves him kind of questionable, though, for the game, and he's most likely not going to play. We might be looking at a worse O-line play than last week, and that's just awful. And then on the receiving end, our own receivers made some really bad drops last week, like Eric All and Giles Jackson. Giles Jackson had a huge play capability on the one, but he just dropped it. And then Eric also had some bad drops, just like against Minnesota. And their play will basically depend on Joe Milton, and he really has to improve this game. Against MSU, he showed little to no touch on multiple occasions, whipping the ball when not necessary, and accuracy is a huge problem. There will be big game opportunities next week, and there were some this week, but his overthrowing, just whipping the ball as hard as he can, just kind of squandered those chances. And at some times, he gave me 2019 Shea Patterson vibes. So overall, he was 32 out of 51, and if he shows growth, his play could greatly affect this game outcome. But in the game, he has to perform in the end, and it's kind of like, will he be Harbaugh's next big quarterback? People have been saying this for years when he came in. Oh, he's a freak. He's huge. He's a great triple threat QB. But does he have the capability to grow and show touch? That's the thing. Like, Justin Fields has this natural talent. And that's the thing. Like, obviously, Justin Fields put in a ton of work to be where he is right now at his position. But he also has an advantage with his talent. And I don't know if Joe has that. So I think Hassan Haskins and Quorum have cemented themselves as the number one and number two running backs. As of now, they've shown they're the most talented and they deliver the biggest opportunity for big plays and big yardage gains. But the play also depends on the O-line, which isn't looking too good. And then that's all I really want to say on the running backs. Zach Charbonnet, he only got 5 carries last week, but I'm pretty sure he only finished with like a few yards, which is just terrible. They don't give you a lot of carries when you can't get big yards out of them. So that really also depends on the O-line because the O-line did play bad last week, but going into this week, the O-line really has to show improvement, which I don't really know if they can, like with our injuries and then Chuck Filiaga playing the way he did. Defensively, I want to see more cover 2 and cover 6 like we saw against Iowa and Notre Dame last year. It better suits our corners, and our defensive line has shown us what happens to a man coverage defense when there's no pressure on the QB. We need to see something from Aiden, Quiddy, Carlo, and Chris. We held MSU to 126 rushing yards, and after the first drive, Michigan looked good stopping the run game, but we couldn't get to Lombardi. Didn't do anything basically on defense against the pass. We couldn't get to Lombardi. That's it. Like, just watch the footage. There were a few times where we almost got to him. There were a few pressures, but overall we didn't get any sacks, and Lombardi was just sitting cool in the pocket. There were times when it was like 5 seconds in the pocket and just deliver a bomb to Jalen Reed. Both Cam and Barrett are questionable, so we're most likely looking at Van Sumeren, Ross, Solomon, and Mullings to make up the linebacking core. And that's just, like, what am I supposed to say? 2 of our best players on defense got hurt. And with all the question marks and injuries, this game spells out bad news for Michigan. So, as my final prediction, Indiana exposes the Wolverines' never-changing defense for the second time this year, winning 31-14. Michael Penix has a big game. He looked good against Rutgers. He didn't put up the best yardage against Penn State, but then obviously against Rutgers he showed a lot of improvement. And this Rutgers team showed that they're a pretty decent team. So Michigan and Harbaugh could change the narrative by turning everything around this game, but Michael Penix Jr. looks good, Don Brown can't adapt, and Jim can't catch a break. This is a must-win game, and in most must-win games, Michigan usually loses. I am Jeremy Brown. This is the Victors Podcast. As always, go blue.